In this video, I'll be showing you how to solo level your Paladin in the Shattered Halls. This method is one of the fastest ways to level your character from 70 to 77. So if you're looking to avoid launch day chaos, or you just want to level quickly by yourself, then this guide is right for you. Shattered Halls as a leveling method is already pretty well known by now around the Paladin community, but I'd like to share my experiences and the route that I use personally. I actually delayed making this video for weeks just to avoid Blizzard's attention after the whole Karazhan fiasco, and then they dropped this bomb on us.
Solo in Utgard Keep, solo in Nexus, solo in Old Kingdom, all of this, you know, with very, very high-end TBC gear, seems like a very popular way. Is this something that is like, you know, it's just going to be left as it is?
Nothing is on my radar about that. We don't have a big problem with people doing that. At least I don't. If you can find ways to use all the gear that you earned from Sunwell and Black Temple to go through and solo a dungeon as a tank, then have a blast, have fun. I'm not sure it's going to be the fastest way.
So there you go, straight from Blizzard. They don't care how you level. Unless it's Karazhan, then they do care. So that's kind of weird, but anyways, let me go ahead and go over the requirements for this farm, and then I'll show you the way that I like to run it. Here's the spec and glyphs that I'll be using. We have Glyph of Judgment, Glyph of Divinity, Lay on Hands, Sense Undead. These are not really the best glyphs ever, but they are slightly useful, sort of, sometime. And it's kind of what we have available to us right now. And then the spec is just a standard 5110 spec. As we level up, we're going to get Seal of Command and Pursuit of Justice. And then after that, you're free to put the points wherever you want, either in Conviction, or you can go into Protection a little bit more. It's really up to you, but it's not really going to matter too much. As for the gear, you pretty much just want to use all of your best stuff. By now, you should probably have a fairly decent amount of gear if you've been playing your Paladin throughout TBC, or if you've been trying to gear up in the pre-patch. What I can say is that as you level up, your avoidance is going to go down. So you have to be aware of that fact that if you plan on staying in Shattered Halls for an extended period of time, you know, up to level 77, then you're going to have to probably have some gear that you can swap to that's higher avoidance, or some gems that you can swap out, or enchants, or whatever you need to do to keep your avoidance up. Probably wouldn't go below 75% avoidance in here. You're going to start seeing some numbers pop up on your screen, and you're going to start getting chunked. Now, Shattered Halls is notoriously easy, so it's probably not going to be that big of a deal, but just make sure that you do have those options available as you level up. Avoidance is dropping down super low at starting at around 73, 74, and you keep on going and it just gets lower and lower. So if you don't have anything to swap out, you may find that it gets a little difficult, but again, Shattered Halls is not really super hard anyways. Might be perfectly fine, but I would definitely carry some extra gear in your bags for those higher levels just in case. To do this run the most efficiently, I highly recommend you set up some macros and have nameplates to differentiate between important mobs. The Plater add-on has the ability to change the nameplate color of certain mob types within its options. If you want to download my Plater profile, then join my Discord and check the resources tab. There you can see all of my add-ons, weak auras, as well as download my profile for Plater. I'll leave the macros down below in the description. They're just simple target macros for the mobs we need to kill first. The acolytes have a super annoying mind blast and an AoE healing ability, so they always should die first. You'll want to pull the entire first room and then LOS around this corner so that all the mobs group up on you. That way you can kill the acolytes and the sentries. The reason we want to kill the sentries is because when you kill them, it actually triggers the first spawning of the first wave in the first hallway. Leave a comment down below that says the word first. In this clip, I actually had an acolyte that was casting on me from the very first room and I didn't even notice, so just make sure you LOS properly so that all the mobs group up on you. As soon as one of the pairs of the sentries die, I can't remember if it's the first pair or the second pair, it's probably the second pair. As soon as they die, the first wave in the hallway will spawn and you'll be able to pick it up. Generally, as long as you're killing your priority targets, as soon as those targets are dead, you should be moving on to the next thing. After you enter combat, right after entering the dungeon, you shouldn't drop combat until you're all the way at the first boss. So just kill the acolytes, kill the sentries, kill the sharpshooters, and then keep going. As you could probably tell, the sentries are colored blue in my Plater, the acolytes are colored green, and the sharpshooters are colored purple. This makes it super easy for me to tell whether or not I have a high priority target attacking me. Also make sure that you're utilizing your cooldowns. I notice here I didn't actually press wings. That was a mistake on my part. I could have done a lot more damage a lot more quickly here, and that is definitely something that I should have done. I typically will pop wings between the start of the dungeon and the second wave in the hallway. That way, when I get to the third wave, which has 3 sharpshooters, I can put on Seal of Light, pop my 50% damage reduction, Divine Protection, and then I can kind of just coast and I don't really have to worry about the scatter shots. All the way up until this point, I've been using Seal of Corruption to make sure that I can nuke these single targets down quickly, but as soon as you get to that pack with the 3 sharpshooters, I do recommend you actually swap over to Seal of Light just in case, because the damage can get pretty high on that pack. Even though this is Shattered Halls and it's super easy, you just don't want to take any risks. You're probably wondering what that squeak noise is that you've been hearing throughout this video. That's actually my Hammer of the Righteous noise that I changed to be a squeak because I didn't want to hear the clang for all of beta and then get onto live and hate my life already. So I've changed it on the beta to a squeak toy. That way, after I've spent, 47 million hours on the beta, I don't get tired and irritated of the noise already and then have to hear it on live. Anyways, we're on the third group in the hallway now, so once we get these sharpshooters down, all we're going to do is run into the very next room, pull everything in that room, and then we're actually going to keep on going and jump into the slime tunnel, pull all of the slimes except for the very last pack, and I'll tell you why in a little bit, and then we're going to group it all up in the boss's room and get it all down. Make sure that before you jump down here into the slime tunnel, you have enough HP. There has been times when I have done this last pull kind of sloppily and I took a lot of damage and I wasn't looking. I just jumped down and straight up died to fall damage. Super embarrassing. You don't want that to happen to you. So make sure you either have enough HP or you don't have forbearance so that you can bop when you jump down. And like I said, make sure you don't pull the very last slime in this tunnel because we're going to be using him to regen some mana when we're fighting the first boss here. At level 70, you can easily avoid pulling it by just going straight up the ramp. Everything else should aggro onto you automatically without you having to do anything. When you come out of the tunnel, hang a left and stand here and wait for all the mobs to group up. Then we're going to kill the acolytes and then we're going to kill the rest of the mobs and get ready for the boss. These slimes will put a movement speed debuff on you that actually also reduces your attack speed, but it can be dispelled with Blessing of Freedom, so make sure you see when you have 10 stacks of that, then use Blessing of Freedom. Now, when we fight the boss, we have a few different options with how we can tackle him. The first option is just to swap over to Shadow Resist Aura. However, this is the hardest of the three methods, and I don't recommend you try this one. The second option is actually just to throw on some Shadow Resist gear when you're doing this. This is actually the method that I choose, and it seems to be the easiest for me, and I don't really lose too much speed. All I do is put on my BT neck as well as a Shadow Resist cloak, and I throw on Shadow Resist Aura, and everything goes just fine. It's around 165 Shadow Resist, and it seems to make the boss infinitely easier. I resist more death coils, I take less damage from the void zones, and the whirlwind phase is easily out-healed with Seal of Light. So I highly recommend that you go onto the auction house and pick up the Night's End Shadow Resist Cloak or some Shade Steel pieces, which are great Shadow Resist pieces, or using your BT neck, whatever combination you want in order to make sure that you don't die to the boss. Now the third option would be to go Ret and kill the boss as Ret. I personally have not tried doing it as Ret, however I can't imagine that it saves you any time having to swap specs twice as well as carry an entire different set of gear in your bags, although some people prefer this method, so if you do have a red set and you want to give that a try, you can definitely do it. However, I have found that just using a couple pieces of shadow resistance gear as prot is way faster. All you have to do is just swap a couple pieces of gear out and then pull the boss and you're good to go. Once you do have the boss, we're going to take him all the way down into the slime tunnel, which is personally my favorite place to be, and we're going to pull those additional slimes that we previously left, and we'll use all of these mobs hitting us to proc our sync and give us some mana back when we're fighting the boss, as well as some extra damage from Reckoning. Now, if you're constantly pressing your buttons, these mobs probably won't live for the whole fight. However, they last pretty much just long enough for you to be able to kill the boss. You're just going to be getting spammed with death coils, and these void zones are going to be on the ground, and the mobs are going to be hitting you in the back when you do get death coiled. Overall, it's a super annoying experience. However, when you're wearing the shadow resist gear, it's pretty doable and it's not really difficult. Just make sure when he goes into that whirlwind mode that you actually do put on Seal of Light and you pop any remaining cooldowns you might have. I do recommend you also have some mana pots, as when the mobs start dying and the guy starts spinning, you're really going to be wishing you had some extra mana. So do make sure that you have some mana pots with you just in case, but most of the time you don't really even need to use one as long as you get these little slimes that constantly spawn throughout the tunnel. I'd like to take the time to remind you to subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and if you like these kind of videos and want to see more in the future. Yeah, it's just a boring boss kill, so I had to fill this space with some sort of audio, so here it is. Yay, subscribe. And so here's the whirlwind phase. You can see I swap over to Seal of Light and I just don't even really take any damage. It's just an absolute joke. So if you try without shadow resist gear, it's not gonna look like this. You're gonna be getting chunked, and you probably won't have enough damage output because your mana is gonna be low and it's just gonna be a nightmare. It's not impossible, but it's not reliable. So just put on the dang shadow resist gear, man. Once you've got the boss dead, put on your regular gear and we're going to continue on. That's pretty much the hardest part of the dungeon right there, is the boss, and it's trivialized by the shadow resist gear, so really nothing about this is difficult. When you get to this little gauntlet area, you can either use swiftness potions or rocket boots to speed up your run down the hallway. I like to just do this gauntlet as a pull of its own, that way I can do the entire next area as one pull. However, doing that entire area in one pull is a little bit difficult and requires some higher avoidance and better gear. So if you don't really have the greatest of gear or you're not the best player, I do recommend that you break it up into smaller pulls. Just do as much as you're comfortable with, as the more you do in one pull, the faster your run is going to be. If you want to do the run super quickly like I do, then I will show you exactly what I do. First, I start by popping a swiftness potion outside of combat, and then I will exorcism the group on the left, run to the right and pull them with a taunt, and then continue on down the hallway. For the group on the right, I will throw an Avenger's Shield, and then continue to the left side of the room, where I pull the other group with a taunt again, or just proximity aggro, and then you can pull all of these mobs into the next hallway where we can LOS behind the chain. Now doing this can be kind of crazy because they do have a knock-up and there are casters and ranged, so you want to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing and that you can handle it. This is how I do it super quickly, but if you're not looking to optimize speed and you want to be a little bit safer, then what you can do is split this into 2 different pulls, and it makes it a lot easier and a lot more manageable. Again, in this area, you'll want to target the acolytes first using our macro, and then after that you can move on to legionnaires or whatever you want to target. Pretty much from here on out, the run is basically completed. We don't go any further because all the mobs after this point do have stuns, and it's super annoying to deal with, and it's typically not worth it. Now, I will show you a trick to get to the front of the instance a little bit quicker. Some people have opted to maybe have a few different accounts and summon themselves using the stone outside. Other people want to log out and reset with another account. Those are all viable options, but if you just want to play one account, one guy, then all you need to do is run back to the first boss's room and actually log out on the arm of his chair, and this teleports you to the front of the dungeon upon login, and then you can zone out and reset and begin your next run. So when I say this is one of the fastest leveling methods out there for this level range, I'm not kidding. Check out these spreadsheets from Danny and Vanazul of my Discord, who have been collecting data for over a month. This one shows how much experience per run you'll get at each level, and the approximate time it'll take you to level doing only Shattered Halls with no additional experience buffs. And here's another one that shows how long it'll take you to level if you do runs that take 15 minutes or longer. These run times are actually quite forgiving, as most of the time I'm completing my runs in around 12 minutes or less. And finally, we have one here from Banis, which actually shows the experience gains with the Brewfest 10% experience buff, as well as the 5% experience buff token gained from doing the Hellfire PvP daily. You can also get these from killing the opposing faction at the PvP towers located in Hellfire or in Zangarmarsh. We've concluded that using this method alone, you can potentially reach level 77 in about 15 hours. This number will be even less if you fill out your lockout time with some additional farming on the side, such as in Shadowmoon Valley, Hellfire Peninsula, or doing some pre-questing. Overall, this is a great method for leveling up and avoiding all the chaos, and it's also just a great way to just level up super quickly. So if this video helped you out, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.